Hello, everyone, and welcome to International Coaches Club, the podcast where international coaches share their stories and how they've made an impact on their sport in the US, from college programs to professional and national teams. I'm your host, Liran Zamir. After a professional playing soccer career that included more than 190 appearances in Australia and around Europe, he transitioned into coaching with the same passion for the game. Over the past 15 years, he had worked in many different levels of the game and helped launch the careers of future U.S. women's national team stars and played a key role in programs including Colorado Rapids, Ohio State, and Villanova. Today, he's the head coach of the Texas A&M Corpus Christi program, where in his first season, he led one of the most remarkable turnarounds in program history. The Islander recorded their first ever winning season and set multiple school records. Whether discussing coaching methodology, player development, or building winning cultures, his approach reflects a career built on continuous learning and a passion for helping athletes reach their full potential. Daniel Clitnovici is my guest today. All right, Coach. Thank you so much for joining my podcast. I wanted to ask what stood out the most from the introduction.
First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate what you're doing for coaches, for athletes, for people looking and searching for their career paths and their journeys. So having me being on here, I greatly appreciate it as well. What stood out there, I think you've done your work. You've done your background and you're prepared, and I gratefully appreciate that when you talk to people that want to interview you, that someone knows a background. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And what stood out more to you in all of this, achievements and your career path? What's one thing that you want to go back to and remember?
I'm still going in the sport, and I often think about this. The sport of soccer as a player, a youth player, as a young kid, and then obviously chasing some dreams, getting to a certain level at the professional level, and now still in coaching and at different tiers, different levels, professionally, college, club. I'm still in the game. So I think I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky and fortunate to be doing this. And there's not a day that goes by that I take it for granted. I think, soccer's given me a lot, and I'm glad that I'm still in it and I'm still doing it.
I love it. I'm a volleyball coach, but my sport, the one I love the most, is soccer.
Okay,
that's my sport. That when I want to watch something fun, watch soccer. I follow still from teams back home. And I want to ask you, growing up in Australia, what did soccer look like in your childhood? Did you play early on? How was soccer presented to the people? Is this your national sport and so on?
Yeah, so great question. I think soccer in Europe, not in my country, in Australia originally, it's definitely cultural in different parts of the world, South America, Central America. In Australia, it's definitely was, when I was growing up, not the number one sport. We had sports that were Australian rules football, which is similar in a way, not a similar sport, but culturally, the number one sport in Australia, like NFL football, is here in the US. So you had that sport, you had cricket, you had tennis, you had several other sports that Australia had already had successes, whether it be in early Olympic Games, early tennis contests, Wimbledons and US Opens. I'm talking about long time ago, that those were the sports. And Australia, being an immigrant sport at that time when I was growing up, played by a lot of immigrants. My parents were immigrants out there. People coming from different countries, mainly Europe, right? In Australia, heavily populated by Greeks, Italians, Eastern Europeans, Scots, English. So it wasn't always. We never did that at physical education in class. We didn't do it. So we learned other sports. We learned to swim. Swimming. Australia's surrounded by water, so we played a lot of other sports. But in the playground, believe it or not, we played soccer. On the streets, when it finished school, we'd play soccer. Even the Aussie kids. And it wasn't all immigrant families. It was every kid. We play soccer, so we got a lot of that. I don't think that's the same anymore. I think in Australia now, playing after school, like in the US, I think sports are more club driven, organized. So street soccer doesn't exist. So I think that was one thing that stands out to me. I look at my kids. I have 4 kids, and they finish school. They all play soccer in their own way, but none of them are kicking the ball around in the backyard. None of them are really doing what I did and my friends did and my generation did. So soccer definitely was something that came from within us. It wasn't organized for us.
Very cool. That's an awesome answer, and kind of the same. We kind of sad to see. I remember I was just visiting home and walking through the courts or the fields or whatever soccer that we had asphalt, right? We used to play 5-on-5, whatever.
Yep, yep.
So those are empty, and those used to be. We used to wait an hour until your turn. You know how it works. Anyway, so I totally understand. And then you took it a step up, right? You obviously became a pro player, and you started in Australia, then went to England, Romania, Greece, Spain, all around Europe. And I was wondering, what did each move added to your career, to your personality, as this being like an international platform?
And I think that my first answer, I think, connects this answer because soccer home in Australia wasn't the major thing. We had a pro league, don't get me wrong. We had a really cool thing going on TV with one league, and you had the local leagues and you had adult leagues that were competitive, and it was growing, right? But a lot of my generation, I'm in my mid 40s, and a lot of my generation and a little bit older, some of Australia's best players are a little bit older than me, because they all left Australia to pursue, even if it was a lower league, even if it was, I never played in the Premier League, but I know players that were alongside me at practice or in my environments that I played against that played in the Premier League, played in World Cups, but we had to leave Australia to pursue that next level. And my steps, I was always, I played in the top league in Romania. I played in the second tier in Spain and then the third tier in Spain. In Greece, I played in the third tier. Now, I never made David Beckham's money or made briefcases full of cash in my journey, but yeah, I did play in front of packed stadiums, and I was in pressure environments, and we had to survive relegation, and we had to deal with attention and media and scrutiny and positivity, and that was life then. So the levels I was at was very good, and it kept me connected to the game, at the highest tiers. But I think something I learned along my journey was I learned more about myself. When I first got to Europe, I just had stars in my eyes, and I wanted to be a superstar, which we all do because you're younger, right? But as you go through that next club and that next club, you're actually learning more about yourself on what you can and can't do. And some of the best soccer I ever played was, and even possibly the most money I ever earned was in the lower tiers, like when I was in the third tier in Greece. I enjoyed that football. The pressure was still there, but it was not the same. I was getting old. I was getting on a bit. So for me, I think my journey as I went through it, I learned more about myself, and I was at ease, and I wasn't chasing that Ferrari. I wasn't chasing certain things. I was grinding, and I was trying to be a better player. And unfortunately, I wish I could do it again, and I'd be way better now with my mindset now. I think we could all say that, right? In our own journey. So no, I think just the growth I had as a human being on planet Earth is what I feel that's helped me the most through my soccer journey. And then the connections and the networks I've made. I've made some friendships that I'm still in touch with from, I played football with guys 20 years ago, and they're still some of my closest friends because of those things we did together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Soccer and any sport can take you anywhere and shape who you are as a person. So that's a really cool experience for you.
Culturally too. I think culturally was big. Having lived in those different cultures, I
Right.
think that was an eye opener. There was things I didn't like when I was in Spain, and then I after I left, I realized they were awesome, and I wish I had a different mentality. Right, the siestas, the napping during the day. It wasn't for me, but now in hindsight, man, I would have slept a whole lot more if I had a different attitude. You know what I mean? So
You
on and
don't
so
have that
forth.
in the US, that's for sure.
You
No
don't. You
napping
don't.
and
No, you don't.
that's fun,
Full
man.
work days.
And then, looking back to your playing career, first of all, what was your position? And then what kind of a player how would you describe yourself from your coach's eyes right now?
So growing up, really, even when I became first a professional, when I left Australia and embarked on a journey throughout Europe. Early on, I was an attacking centre mid or a false nine at times, and there wasn't many false nines then. It wasn't really that style of football hadn't really really impacted the globe. So, definitely I was an attacking player, but professionally and in my life after that, because I was pretty hard nosed like most Aussies, you like to get stuck in. In Europe, they moved me back a little bit more, and I played more of a defensive midfielder, which I enjoyed. And I think it was better for me to be in that position at a higher level where, I wasn't that flashy, and in Australia, I was fine with that. But in Europe, if you're not flashy, you can't really be an attacking center mid. You've got to have an offensive skill set that slices and dices a little bit more. And I never had that, but I had a tackle. I was good in duels. I was good in the air, and well, that's what they thought of me anyway, I guess. But ultimately, defensive midfielder, and more on that defensive side of the game. That was more of my identity. And now as a coach, I see that in myself when I coach. There's some non-negotiables with my players, and that's hard work and commitment and sacrifice and dueling and having the ability to compete. And I think that helps me connect that with them because I actually was that type of player.
Very good. Awesome. And then, when you started playing and moving around, learning from other coaches and learning from teammates, were, did you always know that coaching is what you wanted to do?
No, no, I never. My journey into coaching really came with a phone call. I had moved back to the US, and I got into physical therapy school to pursue, potentially be a physiotherapist, get into the health science part of sports. I didn't know if I wanted to be in a soccer program or in another sport. But I thought, well, it's time to get serious now. Go, finish school, get a job, and stay in sports if I can with that job. But really, I got a phone call here in the US, and some things opened up for me through some people that I knew and knew my background and knew my demeanor, my attitude, and said, "Look, would you want to get into some coaching?" And I did a little bit of it, and I started enjoying it, and some doors opened for me. I think I was doing okay with it, so people gave me a chance, and I took those chances. And to be very open with you, I think it's where I need to be, and I don't regret, not completing physical therapy school or anything like that. I'm really happy where I'm at, and I'm fortunate again that I'm still doing it. So that was really how I again fell into it, you could say, even though it's what I probably knew best more than anything else.
That's very cool. And what do you think the hardest adjustment from finishing playing career thinking you're off the wagon and then coming back as a coach? What would be the hardest adjustment?
Well, that's a serious question, to be honest with you. I think I struggled with that, and I think a lot of people do. I did struggle with, I'd say when I was done playing, I struggled for about a year and a half, personally, where I didn't have any releases. I didn't have any. I didn't even want to watch it anymore. I was kind of down a little bit, down and out. So I think I always had it in me to want to stay connected to football, but not being able to play it. And to be very open with you, I don't play adult league. I don't play soccer anymore. I haven't played in any type of group activity for a while. And the reason for that is one, my body can't keep up with it, but my brain tells me I can. I've had several surgeries too. I've had 3 ACLs in my journey
Oh,
too.
wow.
So for me, I can still strike a ball half decent, but I need more practice. But I think really the hardest part for me was being away from a locker room, being away. I would smell the rub you put on your sore muscles, and it would bring back memories, right? The locker room, the camaraderie, the chants, the looking in your teammates' eyes before a kickoff, the conversations, that stuff was hard. And when I say that, I'm not the only person. When I'm saying these things, I know millions of people, whether they play at a higher level than me or not, can relate to that. I think that was challenging for me. So getting into coaching keeps me around. It gives me my release in the sense of I'm at a level with like-minded people that want to compete and be the best. But definitely, there was a couple of years when I did retire that were challenging for me. Like I just told you, I wanted to get out of the game. I wanted to do something else. I'm kind of running away from it, to be very open with you. I was kind of maybe trying to run away from it. So, but I'm glad I'm back.
I'm glad you're back too. Good job. Now, there are a lot of differences between what you're doing right now and your career. It's going to be a two-part question that I'm interested in. First of all, you're coaching women right now.
I am, yes.
Um, women's soccer around the world is much smaller than men's in all levels and all division, except for the US, especially the collegiate game. So how is that different for you, the women's side? And the second thing is, you have a UEFA certificates and US licenses. How the American game is different than the rest of the world, and particularly the parts that you were in Europe that football, soccer is most developed.
Absolutely. So again, I think the first part of the question, the first time I started coaching in the US, when I started coaching properly, as a professional career, was with women. And it's quite funny. My associate head coach here that works with me, Chloe Roberts, I coached her 15 years ago. She was playing for me at the Colorado Rapids, and she played for the Atlanta Silverbacks. And we brought her over because she was a goal scorer. She's from England, Plymouth,
Oh,
and she holds. I think she's second in the NCAA for most goals scored in 4 years. She scored 93 goals in 4 years. But why I'm touching on that is I started coaching women first, and I actually had a short stint of coaching men not long ago. About 4 years ago, I took over a NPSL men's team. That I think they parted ways with their coach halfway through the season, and they needed me to step in and coach them. And I didn't enjoy it, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I also coached some D3 men, a high level D3, Ursinus College. They're like in the ACC of D3 type level. So we have high academic students at the Division 3 level, but
yeah.
we also had some top players there, and I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it. But again, I think my forte, my strength has been I've coached women a lot longer. I've coached ran youth clubs, ECNL youth clubs, which is high level youth soccer. I've been a director at several of those clubs, and we've had success. So I've been around the women's game quite a bit, and at this level in the NWSL as well. So, first of all, I think we're lucky to have the US support women's sports as much as they do. It's starting to grow around the world. I know in Australia it's doing really well now. I know in England it's doing really well, and some other leagues as well. But it's still growing and it's still doing well. But we are in a country that does support female sports really well, and for soccer specifics, I'm very blessed. And yeah, Division One women's soccer, we have more women's teams than men's teams, right? We have a
Yep.
lot of universities that sanction those sports. So truthfully, we do support the game. For me personally, I feel I connect better with males and females. For me, it's not an issue of one or the other. I think you've got to be a good person to connect with both genders. There are some differences, none that I can say is a weakness to either side in those differences. I think the women's game for me specific can be, I think the men's game is very tactical too, but I think the women's game can with tactics you can really achieve certain results maybe a little bit quicker due to the tactics. But at the same time, I think both sports are hard to coach. I think both sports are difficult to create success. It's hard. Winning's hard, whether you're on the men's side or the women's side. But I do definitely enjoy being on the women's side. My network's very strong on the women's side, and I'll continue to hopefully stay on that women's side. Even though again I had a brief stint out. Now, when it comes to the other question about having some soccer background, having played, having my qualifications, Europe to the US. Look, at the end of the day, the experience, whether in Europe or you're in the US, I really believe, and again, I've had some great mentors in my path and on this journey, both as coaches, as a player, and also, some coaches out here that have really inspired me with the direction I'm going on. And I think the number one thing, if I really look back at it throughout my whole life in this sport, is relationships. If you can build an environment with your players, whether they be 12-year-old kids or 20-year-old women or men or pros, if you can build relationships that are built on being genuine, having the right delivery as a coach, where if you're unhappy or you want something more out of your athletes, you've got to be able to deliver that message appropriately but differently, because every human on your team is different. Then you can have success, and that's consuming and that's hard. And I'm no expert on it. But I definitely am aware of that, and I definitely work hard with my staff to try and build relationships with our athletes to where they can trust us. They know the conversations are genuine. And then when we make decisions, whether it mean game time, whether it be scholarships, whether it be whatever, they know that we're there for the right reasons, and so are they. You're right. So relationships is everything. I'd rather build a team that has a culture that is leaning positive. Culture is not perfect. No, anyone who tells us that our culture is perfect is lying. I don't think they've been there and done that, because culture's evolving. There's good days with culture. There's tough days with culture, and you've got to be able to manage those good days and those tough days. So for me, we would rather have a team where culture leans positive and have not the most talented roster and have success that way than have all this talent on the roster and just a rotten culture, because I don't think you're going to get the results either. So, in my journey, that's one thing in football that I can say is probably the most important. Now, style of play, building sessions, periodization, curriculums. I've been blessed to have been through my paths, and I think I know a little bit, but I also think those times are changing. My coaches, when I was in Europe, did some pretty prehistoric methods of coaching us, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent. There was different ways to motivate us. There was different ways to speak to us. There was different ways to train us. We're smarter. Where people are evolving. Environments are evolving. So one thing I have learned is that if you can treat people well, it doesn't matter what you're trying to teach them. I think they're going to give you a chance. If you treat people poorly, and you could have all the awesome things that you know about soccer, you can't teach them anything. So Again, my licenses mean nothing if I can't connect with my athletes. And then on the same time, there's coaches with no licenses that can connect with their athletes and have success too. So again, I think it's just a matter of how much work you want to put into building those relationships. That's what I'm doubling down on, and that's the way we're going to do things here.
I love it. And that leads me to the next question. Maybe we could be a little more specific about that. So you walked into the Texas A&M Corpus Christi, immediately transformed, right, the program. And you were touching and talking about culture and all those important things. But other than that, other than communication, what was your first priority to make sure that you're going to the positive direction?
So organization. I think, me replacing someone else, there was another coach here who obviously tried their best and tried to do things in a way that worked. And, it worked for them or it didn't. But when I came in here, one of the biggest things I tried to do was learn from the past. And I wasn't part of the past, but the team was from the past, right? I didn't add anyone. So for us, it was speaking to our athletes and finding out what worked for them and what didn't. So listening to them. But for me, the biggest thing was just setting them up and organizing them on and off the field, giving them whys. And why are we doing this? Why we need to do this? Why this matters? And so on and so forth. The why factor, I think, in sports, male or female, this is another thing I want to, kind of answer on that last question you asked earlier. The athletes of today need why. And whether you're a male or a female, and the why is not really to explain myself or even validate myself, but to give them an understanding and then help shape them and direct them to that purpose on why we're doing something. So we gave them why we're doing this and why we're doing that and why this, why that, right? So that helped us with organization. So I think a lot of our success really came from giving them a lot of structure and organization. And that's my side of things. I don't know how the past was, so I can't say that they didn't have organization or they didn't have a why. Maybe they did. But I think we found a lot of success and a lot of gratefulness from the athletes because they were included in, meal choices. They were included in conversations about load on how we want to train this week. Obviously, I wasn't giving them the keys and telling them, hey, run the program, right? We weren't doing that. But we were explaining on what the week looked like. And, you need to rest tonight because tomorrow's a fitness test. And then after the fitness test, we're going to practice a little bit. And I think communication and giving them the why and giving them organization just fixed a lot of things for us. And then we have a mentality here. And again, it's my mentality with my staff. And I take that back. It's not my mentality. It's a mentality that I was taught by others. So it's a mentality that I've adopted and I'm using here. And that is a don't beat yourself mentality. And, whether we play soccer pretty or we play soccer ugly or however we want to play, the number one thing needs to be that you don't beat yourself. And that means you stay up late the night before the game. So you're beating yourself. You're going to be tired tomorrow. That means our center back messing around with the ball in the 6-yard box under pressure, and then the opponent scores the goal. Well, you're beating yourself. Get that ball out. So the don't beat yourself mentality is not just in football, in soccer. It is just in everything we do. So, when you have that type of mindset, I think if you're going to lose games or if you're going to be beat, it's because someone's better than you or because someone's done something that is better than you. And we got to be okay with that. We have to accept that maybe today we weren't as good as the opponents, but we didn't beat ourselves. They beat us, right? We're the ones that weren't prepared, or we're the ones that lack fitness today because, we did something that affected us. So if you're going to lose games, I think you need to lose them because of the opponent being better than you on that day. So I think for me personally, those are the few areas that we really focused on to create an environment that gave us success in year one. And we lost a lot of players from that year. That's another thing I want to touch on. We had a more challenging year two but I was still satisfied with it, even though people could look at me and think, well, coach, you only won 5 games year two. Well, yeah, but I had 19 new players, you know, out of my roster of 28, I had 19 new players. I lost 9 out of my 11 starters from year one. And then we graduated 14 kids. We said, adios in a good way. They graduated, they moved on. So at the end of the day, it was a rebuilding for us last year. And one of the biggest satisfactions I have from year two is we have a lot of those kids back and they're better for it. And they're actually not new anymore. They're part of the paint on the walls in our locker room. They're part of this, you know?
Man, I love your answers. I love that you also answer like 2, 3 questions that I have at a time. So that's perfect. I want to hear you
Right.
more. Um, yeah, because I wanted to ask more about culture, and I love that you're just passionate about it and taking it to your direction, and that's really nice to hear. And then you can see how passionate you are just by talking about it. So that
It's
will definitely
important.
take you to your places. But I did want to ask you, you know you have a big shift and you inherited a program. Um, you have new players and you have a lot of new recruits coming in now that you after you graduated so many. But what do the players they need today from you and the coaching staff that you wouldn't say the same that they need 10 years ago?
Great. This is yeah. They need to know that you care and that you genuinely are invested in them. They can't. It can't be a transaction. They're on my team, and they're on this team because I want them here, and my staff want them here. And when you care, then I think there's just a connection and they know that they belong here. And that's what everyone wants. That's what we all want. We all want it in our own ways. I'm a coach here and I want to know my administrators care about soccer and me. Now, what I mean by care, I'm not just talking about hugs, right? I'm not talking about hugs. I care about come over here, I'm going to give you a hug. That you care about how you handle situations. You care about how you check in. You care about saying good morning, even to the kid who is now injured, who really isn't going to play this year. It could be a season-ending injury. Like you can't throw them to the side. You care and you travel them. That injured kid you still bring on the bus to the game. You don't leave them behind because you don't want to waste money on their food, which is nothing, right? So I think what they want now is really probably what we all wanted when we played as well. We wanted to have a purpose to the program we're part of. And I think that, when I played 20 years ago, that wasn't a focus on coaches. And we talk about, oh, we're tougher than this generation. Yeah, we are in some ways, but I think that even back then, if people cared more, and I'll be honest with you, so I had coaches who didn't care. They just cared about winning, and that could you win could you help them win? And if you couldn't, they didn't even talk to you. And that was okay. I had to have a thick skin. I was in those shoes, right? I've been there, right? And other players I played with were in there. But I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that happens anymore. I think I'll give you an example. A major coach in our industry, whether it be on the women's side or on the men's side, Emma Hayes cares about her players. Yeah, there's performance and she has standards and expectations, but she cares about them. Pep Guardiola cares about his athletes. Yeah, he's going to have moments where he tells an athlete it's not good enough, but there's a connection, right? And I think that's not me guessing. That's me knowing because you see it, you read it, you hear how they speak about their teams, and you see that. So I think that's a big thing. I think today athletes need to know that you care about them. Now it's two-way street. So let me just double down on this one. Athletes need to care too. Athletes can't just come into an environment and take it for granted and demand and take and be needy and want things their way. that doesn't create an environment for them or those around them that's very positive. So it's a two-way street, and I think athletes need to care about the program and put the program first. And some kids will play and some won't, and you still got to care because coach cares about us, and so does the trainer, and so does the teammates. So I think that being younger, you need to remind them that a little bit more. For us, more mature, possibly adults, we can stay on top of it, I think, a lot easier. But, athletes need reminders. I remember when I was 18, 19, you had to tell me something, the same thing 4 or 5 times. And even then, maybe I still didn't get it. So at the end of the day, it just depends on the people, right? Did I answer that? Did I answer your question
Yes,
the way?
no,
Yeah,
definitely. And,
right.
I'll the word that popped up in my mind throughout that was a sense of belonging. Like, have them feel like they belong and part of something that is bigger than them. And then it is definitely, something that needs to come from them as well. So yes,
Sure.
definitely answered. And now I want to take you, to a place that we all handle as coaches and programs. Assuming that everybody's working hard and care, then you go into a streak that you lose. And it's not fun. It's never fun. How do you and your program and what you're trying to lead handling those moments and periods of times that things just don't click?
Pull up our 2024 schedule, please. Pull up our 2025 schedule. We've lived that. We've lived that. In 24, we went on a 6-game, last 6 games of the season. We went on I think we didn't give up a goal in 6 games. And we won 5 of the 6, I think, in 24. In 25, last season, we went on the last 4 games of the season. We went undefeated. We lost on PKs, which we lost, but we pushed a top team to the wire, and we were the better team, I thought, in that game. So we've lived it 2 years in a row where things don't go our way. And I think what we've done 2 years in a row, and I think I'll do it again if we run into a similar situation, is regroup the team and remind them on why we're in that locker room. And it's funny because what I tell them and what my staff tells them at that time and reminds them, we've been telling them all year. But because of the gravity of our results not going well and heads have dropped and they're down, not out, but they're down. When we bring it up again and we put it front and center, they've got a clearer choice. And the choice is, look, we've got to fix it like this or we fix it like that. So what I'm referring to is, and I'm going to be very open with you here again, we don't talk about winning in our program. I was taught, and I learned a long time ago on the coaching side that winning can't be the focus. If you focus on the wins and you don't get them, you go down, you struggle. If you focus on getting better, you can surprisingly find yourself winning. But if you don't focus on winning and you just focus on getting better and you're still not winning, you can still go because you're focusing on getting better. So for our focus here in our program, and it's from day one, we've been going a week and a half now with preseason. We don't talk about winning. There's no need to win in our mindset. Winning exists internally. Every athlete we recruit wants to win. I want to be very clear about that, so there's no confusion. Winning has to be inside you. It's innate. I'm not coaching this team to finish bottom of the conference. I'm coaching this team to win every game possible. The athlete is stepping up on that field in every practice to win every game, every moment, every practice. But we can't talk about winning. We can't say, oh, you need to win today. You need to win today. You need to win today. What the focus needs to be is, what's our purpose? What's the why? Why are we practicing this today? Well, we're practicing this today because we're working on 1v1 defending. I'm giving an example. So our focus today is not winning soccer. It is getting better at 1v1 defending. And in your little duels, winning those little duels. And if you lose some and you win some, you're better because you've been practicing at getting better. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
So if your focus stays on getting better, and we also don't have and it's going to sound crazy when I tell you this, we don't have seasonal objectives. I don't sit at the start of the season with my team and tell them, well, how many goals are we going to score this year? How many goals are we going to give up? How many, where are we going to finish? First, second, or third? It's ring season. We don't do that. For us, it's every week we have objectives. Every game we have objectives. And then all of a sudden, you can possibly find yourself sitting at the top like we did in 2024. We finished second, best league finish ever. And the kids are looking at me and go, how did we get here? And I said, well, you didn't focus on it every week. It wasn't, no one was telling you, oh, we're third now. We need one more win to get to second. All you need to focus on is that opponent. Let's prepare for them. Let's make sure we're ready for them. And let's just see what happens at the end. And then we picked up another win and another win and another win, right? And it can accumulate. So how we handle those challenges, I can't tell you it's a stencil and I can just trace it out and it's going to be the same from year to year. That's not true. That's not going to happen. But I do think that with the lack of focus on winning, it can actually help us deal with pressure better. It can help us pick ourselves up when we are losing. And it can just help us stay focused on getting better. And ultimately, I think, and my staff really believes in, and I think our team does too now, it's not winning that matters. It's what winning requires. Fitness, being healthy, nutrition, training, rest, travel, all that stuff that goes into being part of this program, that's what gets you to winning. So again, that might sound like a real crazy philosophy, but we really believe it. You cut me open, and like I have my kid, he's 11, one of my boys, and he keeps talking about winning these soccer games, and he's young, and I'm just trying to teach him, and he doesn't get it, that great, you've achieved that. But what got you there? It was your block shots. It was your pass to your teammates. It was your tracking back and defending. It was you not staying up the night before watching Star Wars. It was all that got you that win. And he doesn't get it. He's too small. He will eventually, but that's really it in a nutshell. So I'm not worried about running into that. I hope we don't. I hope we don't. I hope we run into an environment where we have a lot of success. But should we run into it, we're going to have to figure out that winning's not the focus, and then this next game is important. We tied a game last year, and it was probably the most important tie we got last season. And what I mean by that is we went to McNeese. They're a pretty tough team in our conference, and ultimately we tied the game. We got 1 point on the road. And my team just looked sad at the end of the game. I brought them in, and they were, because they knew they should have beaten them. We were the better team, but we tied the game. Okay. And I brought them in and I said to them, this is a huge point. This tie on the road, especially in our sport of soccer, where when you tie, that 1 point can make a big difference in standings. I said, you're going to remember this game. And yes, you wanted to win, but you didn't lose. You got that 1 point. And funny enough, at the end of the year, that 1 point ended up carrying us into postseason pretty well. But at the end of the day, that was a big turning point where they kind of looked at me and go, you know what, he's got a point. Like, he's right. Like, yes, we wanted to win, but we didn't lose. Most teams went there and lost. We didn't. We tied them. And that was a big point for us. So I think finding the small rewards is super important in motivating teams.
That's very good. I love all those stories. That's I just want to keep listening about your philosophies and your seasons. And the first thing I noticed, or one of the things I noticed, is how passionate you are about your program and about the sport. But if not me, if someone else, if my wife, right, someone who doesn't have anything with soccer, would walk to the practice facilities and see you coach, see one of your practices, what's the first thing that you will notice, or anyone else?
About me or about the program?
You.
Okay. I think they would notice that I'm not front and center. Um, we 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 want to make sure that we empower these athletes, and we're organized, and we'll have a training session, and my staff trains and I train and the kids communicate. We're organized. So I think I wouldn't say they would look around and say who's the head coach, but they may say, wow, the head coach isn't like joysticking everything. He's really got this group and structure organized, and it's kind of running itself. And I'm really proud of that. I think we have a really competent staff, from our athletic trainers through our coaching staff to our support staff. And then the athletes are starting to, we got some young ones this year, but they're starting to run their team. And I think they'd recognize that. And that's more of a Power Four philosophy. I got to be open with you. Power Four programs run themselves in many ways. And I think that's what they would notice first. And maybe about me, they would just think, wow, like he's the coach, but he's around, and he's there for his players, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm not a front and center. I don't need, look at our social media. I'm not on every post like a lot of schools are. I don't need that. I need my athletes to have success, and the more energy and time that's spent on them, the more time they're going to have success. That's the reality.
Very cool. Awesome. I have to push you a little bit on that one. You define success as something more like a philosophical, and makes a lot of sense. And I totally agree. But in 5 years, and saying you're still the head coach at where you're, when your program, what would success look like to make you happy, number wise? Not necessarily we're learning, we're growing, but like what achievements will make you happy?
Okay, so there's two parts to it. Sorry, it's not meant to be long. First part is, I think this program, because it's new since 2013, needs like the alumni side of things. We need to develop a culture and an identity that's deeper than just today, me as a coach and my team. So I think in 5 years, if we can have really established an alumni following, and more support from them and our athletes leaving this place and wanting to be connected to it, I'll be really happy. And it's not just about money. It's not about donating. It's not about that. It's just having even resources for our athletes today that can connect with an alum that's now a dentist and has her own practice. And I got another kid who wants to do the same thing, just connecting them. I don't have that, right? So I think, number one, graduating complete student athletes, moving them on and having them connected to our program. That's going to be a big defining thing for me as a coach. I look at Penn State. I look at all these successful programs. They have, they're a family. It's culture. It's so strong. So number one, then results. Let's talk about results. Let's be a program that wins games of soccer and is spoken about in the conference, and every year competes for championships. And let's not be afraid of those conversations. So we have to be ambitious. We want to go to the NCAA tournament. They've never done that before. They've never won. We finished second last year. That was the best they ever finished in program history, 13 years. So again, I think, the more of that you have, the better the environment, the more talent you can recruit, the greater the program is. So I would say that is a big thing. And I want to be very open about this. I really don't. This is not a stepping stone for me. I don't need. I've been offered jobs in the past, recently. I'm not interested in leaving. I want to build this and make it what it could be. And we have great support from this athletic department, and they support the athletes, the coaches. A lot of our sports are successful: beach volleyball, NCAAs, tennis, NCAAs, golf, NCAAs. I could keep going. Track, cross country, NCAAs. So basketball, I think this year they're rebuilding for them, but they've been at March Madness. So look, I think soccer's no different. Let's shoot for the stars. Let's continue to try and be as successful as we can on the field, and push for a championship caliber environment. That's the reality.
Cool, man. I'll make sure I've said this to your administration so they know. And for any, towards the end here, any young coach, specifically from Australia and soccer, of course, that is listening and thinking, I would see myself playing or coaching here, especially coaching here in the US. What kind of advice can you give them prior?
I would strongly say that it's so possible. There are so many international coaches in the US that coach so many different sports, soccer being one of them. It's so possible if you have an attitude that's positive, an attitude that asks questions, an attitude that uses their network. I wouldn't be sitting here in this chair if people didn't help me. But again, I think they helped me because I was good to them and I was nice and I built relationships and I wasn't arrogant. I didn't have an ego and so on and so forth. And I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes too in my journey. And, I wish I could take back some things and, change some things. I think we all could in some ways. But I think the biggest thing with any new coach or athlete wanting to come to the US, I think that there's plenty of opportunity here. And you've just got to have a good attitude. And I think if you have a good attitude and a perspective that's positive, you can definitely find your home and get on that journey that you want to be on.
Very well. Awesome. I was wondering, I asked this every coach, is there any favorite practice drill that you can share? Something that you think is most valuable, important?
Yeah, so we now I do have one. We have one that we do and the kids go absolutely mental over it. They love it. And so we don't have, first of all, we don't have classes in our team. We don't have freshmen, sophomore, juniors, or seniors. We don't. Everyone is on this soccer team. And
Cool.
yes, they privately know that they're freshmen, sophomores, right? They know all that. But we don't like have the freshmen pick up pennies. We don't, there's just no need. Everyone contributes, right? We have a contributing group. But we split them up only once, and we split them up for this game, and it's called score 24. You're 24 yards, 2 goals away from each other, and we play upperclassmen against underclassmen, and it's just the game itself. You have two goalkeepers in, and the game itself has every aspect of the game, from possession to going to goal to defending to making saves. It's a fast-paced game. It's got a lot of high energy. We actually do use it for our pre-game activation the day before because it does get intense for 15, 20 minutes. But the kids love it, and that's the only time we ever split anything up. So I think that's why they love it even more because for 3 years now, I'm entering my third year. We've never split up the classes, and only for this game. And we play it, pre-game the day before in season, but in the spring maybe a few times. So it's not something that they do all the time, and they love it. They go crazy over it. So if anyone wants to know more about that, they can reach out to me, and I'm happy to tell them exactly how that works and what we get out of it.
Very cool. Awesome. Is there any most memorable, funny, or important story that while coaching in the US that you can share with us?
I wouldn't say it's any funny ones. I think that the coaching journey has humor along the way in so many capacities. Doesn't matter what sport you're in, traveling with friends, colleagues, coaches, working with athletes, right? So there's plenty of humor. But I think something memorable for me that's standing up right now is I have a lot of my coaching tree, coaches that were my assistant coaches in my past, are now coaching either as head coaches in different places or they're still assistants. So I think it's great, when we're recruiting, when we're at events, it's good to run into people that that you've built relationships over time with and see how they're doing, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a great part of coaching is being connected with people that you've built some pretty strong relationships with over some time.
Awesome. That's a good answer. To finish here, I would love to do a speed round of questions. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you can answer in a word or two, or maybe one short sentence. Does that sound good?
Okay, so I'll be quick. Yeah, I'll be quick.
All right, perfect. One word that defines your coaching philosophy.
Committed.
Which country had the biggest influence on the way you coach?
England.
Interesting. Why? Because it's home. Home for football, obviously.
Just I, yeah, I had English coaches in Australia growing up. I had English coaches, and that really coached me to play that style of soccer. And then having played there, I was reminded, and it's in my DNA, to play an English brand of soccer, and English and Scottish, to be very open with you.
Fun. That's cool. You've coached youth, college, and pro level players. Which level is the hardest to coach?
College.
What's one trait that you can spot in 5 minutes that tells you if a player will be successful? Pass?
Athleticism.
Very good. Which professional player taught you the most about yourself
Professional player,
that
as
you've
in
coached? Yeah.
I coached, or
Yeah.
okay, that I've coached the most about myself. Probably Abby Dolkemper.
Very cool. Google the name, whoever is listening. What's one mistake young coaches make that you wish you could tell them to stop?
They want to make it about themselves and what they want, not what the kids can do or should be doing.
Very good. If not a soccer coach, and I think I know this answer, what would you be?
You don't know this one because I wouldn't be a physical therapist. I'd be in
Okay.
storage wars. I'd be buying up storage units and creating my own little storage shop, used goods store. I love storage wars, mate.
That's so random.
I know, but that's
I
what I'd
thought
be
it's physical
doing. Trust
therapy.
me.
That's so
Well,
funny.
that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do, and I got out of it. But everyone that knows me knows that if I was out of football, I'd be in storage wars.
That's very cool. If you could coach any national team in this last World Cup, which one would it be?
Australia.
Obviously. And that leads me to the next question. Who would you rather represent as a coach if you had a chance, the US or Australia?
To be very open with you, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. I love America. America's given me everything, my family, my life. And Australia's where I'm from, but it would have to be the USA because my kids are American. I live here. This country's given me everything, and I miss Australia and I love it forever. But I would coach the USA. I'd be very proud to do that.
That's very, very cool. How was we're done with the speed round. Now I want to ask, like, what do you think about the last World Cup? I was watching, I was enjoying it. How about yourself?
I loved it. I know there was a lot of critiques and so many things with regards to the extra water breaks, things like that. But
Right.
I
Pretty
I
cool.
love I love the World Cup. It was awesome. Whether my team won or didn't, I didn't care. There was great soccer. There was high energy. There was uh, um, drama. There was everything you'd want in a soccer game. It happened, and politics aside, all the drama
Right.
aside, I think it was a great World Cup, and I hope we
Yes.
get it back. I hope it can come back in 12 or 16 or whatever years. I hope it can come back.
Absolutely. And you touched that. I want to ask you one last question. I feel like now the water break thing is going to be in Europe as well, and is going to be something that is permanent. Do you think it's going to come? I see it in like the European qualifiers. Do you think now it's going to come to college? And what do you
I
think
don't
about
know,
it?
man. The game's changing. I don't know. I think it's going to go to. Listen, if they add it, they add it. We have to adapt. That's life. We can't complain about it. I think soccer's evolving, and if it's not just about the money and it's genuinely they're worried about the athlete, which I disagreed in the World Cup, but it wasn't hot in some of those indoor stadiums. It was perfect conditions. But I hope it doesn't. I hope they just keep it to two halves. But if it goes to fours, quarters, then it is what it is. I hope it doesn't. I wasn't a fan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, man. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. I was thinking throughout that now, you asked me before the interview, like what made you want to do it and whatnot. So I think that's a great example, like telling your story, sharing, seeing how international coaches are passionate about developing sports in the US. That's huge. And I was thinking to myself, man, I'm learning so much right now. It's like having like a one-on-one private lecture about coaching, which is awesome. So I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for your time. And wanted to ask if there was anything, last thing you wanted to add.
No, I think you're great. You teach me a few things too. I think we can all learn from each other. But no, I appreciate what you do. And if you need any support with this in the future or anything, just reach out and I'll find some time to help you as well. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Coach Daniel. Thank you very much for today. Thank you for listening to another episode of International Coaches Club. Today it was Daniel Clitnovici, women's soccer head coach at Texas A&M Corpus Christi in Texas. I must say that in the middle of our conversation, I felt like I'm learning so many things that I really feel fortunate doing this because it's not just information to the world. I feel like it's a one-on-one coaching for myself. It's an international coaches club, and I'm glad that he mentioned that all over the countries that he played and coached at, mainly played, kind of shaped his personality. And that's the goal of this podcast, to show that international perspective always builds you as a person. I love that he shared how difficult that was for him to stop playing and becoming a coach, that he kind of wanted to run away from the game and got sucked into it. It's interesting how life takes you those routes. He mentioned that sometimes cultures are not perfect. Coaches always say our culture, not culture, but sometimes I love that he just said, you know what? Sometimes it's not perfect. The question is, what do you learn from it and how do you make it better and pass those rough times? So I really, really like that. I love that he gives whys to his players and his staff, not necessarily why you do a thing in a certain way, but like give perspective and some information behind the decisions of the coach. That's a methodology that I work with. I want to make sure everybody is on the same page, and not just because I tell them, but because they understand what is the common theme for the same objectives. And then he said something very cool. He said that victory is internal. Whether they win or lose as a program, it's a bonus. But if they do those little things to get better every day and have the mentality of winning, that's for him a success. So that was a super interesting conversation. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, watch us on YouTube, and listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I really loved this today, and I hope you did too. Please join us next week. See you next time.